Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy day 128 of the year. How are you feeling this morning? Hopefully you're well rested and leaning into some yin time on this beautiful morning. It's a little cloudy and overcast here on Milos Island, which feels definitely like it's in more of a yin vibe. I've had a nice quiet and slow start to my morning, drinking an extra cup of tea. Just relaxing, resting, and enjoying being in this very feminine and very yin environment. If you haven't been to the Greek islands, I highly recommend you come and visit. It's been one of the most incredible, restorative, and inspiring visits probably ever in all of my travels, and I've traveled a lot. And if you have been, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just something very, very unique about this part of the world, about this island, these islands, about the land, about the sea, about everything. It's just such a beautiful yin place to be. So if you haven't been yet, definitely put it on your list and come and enjoy some time in this magical part of the world. As I said, we are on day 128 of the year, and according to 365 Tao by Deng Ning Tao, our word for today is limits. So grab your book, grab your journal and something to write with. Find a nice quiet and comfy place where you're not going to be disturbed for the next 15 minutes or so while we read together. Take a nice deep breath in with a long exhale out. Down-regulate your system. Get here and now and present, remembering that your breath is the easiest way to do that. And any moment throughout the day where you're feeling a little stressed out or like you need to hit the reset button, just remember you can always come back to your breath to be in this present moment. And with a longer exhale than your inhale, that's going to tell your body to automatically down, regulate, and relax. So I invite you to remember that. And whenever you need to take a deep breath and reset, take that opportunity to do so. Okay, so let's start reading together on day 128 on the subject of limits. Every river has its banks. Every ocean has its shores. Constant expansion is not possible. Everything reaches its limits, and the wise always try to identify these limits. In the environment, they do not willfully expand civilization at the expense of natural wilderness. In economics, they do not spend beyond the market. In personal relationships, they do not demand more than others can fairly give. In exercise, they do not strain beyond their capacities. In health, they do not go beyond the limits of their age. With such attitudes, the wise can even exploit what others think to be barriers. So take a moment to think about limits, like understanding what is the limit here. And you might have heard the saying, like, don't push your limit, like don't push your luck. It's really, really important to understand where the limits are, where the boundaries are, and be like very respectful of those. And of course, come close to them, but don't ever go beyond them. Understand where are the limits, what's the maximum I can go before I push the limit and then go over. You don't want to go over. You want to be able to see it, you want to understand your boundary, but you never ever want to go over it. That is understanding your limits. And as it says here, constant expansion is not possible. You need to understand, okay, this is as far as I can go. If I go any further, that's going to be detrimental. Understand your limits. Very important. When one senses that one has come to the limits of time and situation, one should conserve one's energy. Often, this will be in preparation for a challenge to the limits or a changing over to a new set of constraints. So think about that. Changing over to a new set, it's coming to a new cycle. So when you have, as it says here, when you sense that you've come to the limit, that's actually probably around the time when the cycle is about to complete. So in order to complete that cycle well, it says here, is in preparation to change the limits. So understanding where you're at in the cycle of things, because remember, everything is a cycle. Respecting that cycle before you push the limit is a very, very important skill to learn. Whenever one comes upon the circumference, it is best to consider carefully and marshal one's resources before crossing the line. There is always uncertainty, and we must be wary. We can also utilize limits for our own purposes. We can trap someone because we know of the limits ahead. Defense is possible by utilizing given limits, as a wall protects our backs in a fight. Work is easier when we know that we will be working for a limited time. That really resonates with me. I'm very, very good at working on like a contract basis. I like to know when I'm starting and when I'm finishing. I don't really like open-ended, ambiguous like tasks or projects. I am very much in that. That's very resonant for me. Work is easier when we know that we will be working for a limited time. That resonates if you're like me. We can take advantage of opportunities because we know that they are only there for a moment. Limitations should not always be seen as negative constraints. They are the geography of our situation, and it is only right to take advantage of this. Wow, so what a great passage in regards to, limits and how they don't always have to be a negative thing. Like when you think, oh, it's limited or I have limits, the connotation immediately might be that it's something negative. But as it says here in this passage, it's actually not. Knowing your boundaries, knowing where the limits are, can actually work in your advantage if you're prepared for that and you understand, okay, there's my boundary, there's my limit, I'm not going to go over it, but here's what I need to do to get to a sweet spot, end the cycle and start again. And there's another great reminder in today's passage that everything in life is a cycle, and knowing when you're coming to the completion of the cycle is really important because you know your limits and you're not going to go over them. So this is a wonderful passage for today. I invite you to reread it in your own time and pull out anything in there that resonates with you and journal about it. Thank you so much for being here for 128 days of this year. Have a wonderful, wonderful Friday, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Bye.